What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with a new video about me playing in a chess tournament that I've actually never played in before. So this weekend there was a tournament called the Wolf Chess Championship, which is basically like a monthly tournament run by a club called Wolf Chess, and it's headed by an individual named Deepak who's around 2400, and I know Deepak from other tournaments and from other events. But I've actually never played in his Wolf Chess tournament before, so I didn't really know what to expect. And when I arrived to the tournament venue, it said in the description that I would be like hosting 100 plus, and has weddings. So I thought it would be like this big building, with multiple rooms and stuff, and multiple floors and all that stuff. But it turned out, at least to me, looked like somebody's house, which was kind of interesting. So I basically played chess all day at somebody's house, and it was kind of like in the woods too. So it's kind of an odd location for a tournament. And it was like a 20 to 30 minute drive into some big house in the woods. So yeah, that was kind of not what I was expecting as far as the tournament goes. But yeah, I guess it's other people were accustomed to going to that house to play chess. But it was just me, and I'm playing in the championship section too. So everyone is 1800 or greater. So I'm basically towards the bottom of my section. So that's foreshadowing that every opponent is going to be higher rated than me. And when I came in, the rounds were already starting, so I had to quickly find my opponent and rush to the board. And my opponent for this round was Sasha Creighton. Now, you guys may remember him from the, I think, February action tournament where I scored that brilliant 98 accuracy game against him. But, yeah, this time we're doing a rematch, and he has the white pieces, whereas in the last game he had the black pieces. Also, the time control is kind of interesting. It's not a common time control. It's 55 minutes, which is kind of an odd number to have it as a time control. Usually it's like 60 or 30 or 45 or some sort of number divisible by 15. But 55 is kind of, I don't care. It's not really much different from 60. And yeah, I think the intro is going way too long, so I'm just going to go ahead and go into the game. So yeah, 55 minutes. Sasha opens the game with pawn to d4. I go d5, and here Sasha offers a pawn in the queen's gambit. And earlier I usually decline the gambit, but now I'm more often accepting the gambit rather than declining it. And over the board, I actually took his pawn. Next, Sasha develops normally, and I do the same. After knight c3, e6, and bishop g5, bishop e7. Not really sure why that's an inaccuracy. But yeah, this is just fine. He goes e3, preparing to win the pawn back. And here's a moment where I should have been a bit more active in terms of my play. I should have went, after castles, bishop c4, h6, bishop h4. I should have went c5 instead of c6. C6 is a little bit passive, a little bit reserved. C5 is more direct because it fights the center right away. And I was kind of worried, what happens if he takes this bishop, takes my knight, and then wins this pawn, right? I was kind of not wanting that to happen. But the engine says I can play a move like queen a5, and I'm attacking his knight twice like this, and I'm also hitting his pawn. So Sasha would probably castle here, I would recover the pawn, and life would go on. So that was what the engine said. I kind of go a bit more passive and play c6, but not the end of the world. Just gives white a slightly better advantage. Next, he plays rook to c1, and I centralize the knight with knight to d5. And after a quick trade of bishops on e7, Sasha here castles. And here, Sasha had 48 minutes, and after I developed my knight to d7, I had 47 minutes. Next, Sasha played the move rook to e1, and I played the move rook to d8. And here, Sasha played this interesting move. I assume he didn't want me to, trade knights on c3, so he just moved his knight to e2. Maybe trying to put it on f4, or maybe trying to push e4. I assume that was his idea, to maybe push this pawn forward and have my knight retreat backwards, but okay, knight e2. And here what I play is a bit of a mistake. The engine here recommends I should play the move b6, and if e4 were to happen, like I mentioned earlier, I would just go back, and then I would fianchetto on b7, and sure, white has a bit more space and activity, but, you know, I'm still holding my ground. It's not like white can break through or anything like that. What I play instead is a mistake. I play the move e5. I'm trying to go for the center right away, and I kind of lose a bit of stability on my knight. In fact, white's best option here is to take this knight, and after I take back, to play the move knight c3. And he's hitting my d-pawn, and he's also threatening to take here and have his queen look at the d-pawn as well. So a move like knight b6 isn't going to work for many reasons, because it drops the e-pawn. So I would have to play this awkward move queen b6, and then white would hop in their knight. They're already threatening a fork on the rook and the queen, and then you have to play something weird like rook b8, and white is having much better prospects in this position. So after e5, Sasha here plays the move knight g3, probably preparing to go to f5, and I here play the move e4. I just wanted to gain some space and shove his knight backwards. And I actually thought he would maybe play this move knight f5 to have it, but then I realized that if knight f5 were to happen, I'd just go queen f6, and both of his knights are hanging, and I would just be winning. So he can't do that, actually, after knight g3. So after, e4, and he went knight to d2 to double attack my pawn, and I blitz out the move knight 7 to f6, because that was my whole intent, to move the knight out of the way and then have a path for my light-scored bishop. Here, Sasha played this move a3, which at first to me looked a bit mysterious, because I'm like, okay, he's trying to go b4, but it became clear what he wanted to do after his next move, which was not bishop a2. He went queen c2 first, and as you guys can see, my pawn is hit 3 times on e4, and I only have 2 defenders, so it looks like I have overextended my pawn a little bit. And after queen c2, Sasha had 29 minutes, and I pretty quickly play rook e8 to add a 3rd defender. So I'm kind of trying to defend my pawn here, and white's starting to build up some pressure. And after rook e8, I had 33 minutes, and now the point of a3 was clear. Sasha wanted to give a path for his bishop to go to b1 and add a 4th attacker to the e-pawn. So basically, Sasha is using his entire army to try to win the center pawn. And if he will win the center pawn, then he'd have a much better position and would go on to win more easily. So the e-pawn's a bit weak, as you guys can see. So bishop a2, I play, after a few minutes of thought, I play the move g6, which is the best move. And after bishop b1, my idea at first was to play the move bishop f5 to defend the pawn like that, but I didn't play that because I was scared of f3. And f3 is scary, in my opinion, because I'm like, okay, my bishop's, if I take, he has like 3 pieces staring at my bishop on f5, and I was like, okay, he's gonna, First and foremost, what if he just plays e4 and gets a fork on the knight and the bishop, right? But then the engine says just go knight f4, and he can't take the bishop because I would actually, trade. I would play queen takes rook, and this is much better for black here. So after e takes f3, after e4. I already showed that part, but if he plays knight takes f5 here, which was the other point I had, I'm like, okay, I have to take back the knight, but then queen takes f5, and he has a battery on the h7. He has 2 center pawns, and I don't have any center pawns. And, my king's a bit open. It just doesn't look great for white. But what I apparently can do instead is I can play this move f2 check. I'm going to lose that pawn anyway, but I might as well draw the king out a little bit. So I should have played f2 in that scenario, and the king's forced to take. And then now after taking, and queen takes, notice the difference here. And knight takes e3, so this is the way to go. So if you compare this position and this position, they look pretty similar. The only real difference is that my f-pawn is gone and the king is on f2. So this position, white is much better, and in this position, black is the one that's better. And the reason being is that by playing f2, you sort of draw the king out, as I mentioned earlier. You attack the queen as well, and you're probably going to play knight g4 next turn and get out of this sort of pin you have on your knight. So let's say queen h3 were to happen like that. You can just play knight e to g4 check and save your queen, and the game would go on. So very, very subtle nuance there in the position. Very critical move there at f2 check. But yeah, I didn't see that far, and I ultimately didn't play the move bishop to f5. I instead played the move king to g7, because I'm like, okay, that pawn's a goner. I might as well just, accept my fate at this point. So I play king g7. Sasha quickly takes with the knight, and I trade, and he takes with the right piece. If he were to take with the knight here, it's back to even because I can play the move bishop f5, and his knight's pinned, and if he plays f3, I can probably just go knight f6 here, and I'm going to be winning my pawn back. So he'd have to get out of the pin, and then I would just take the knight and win my pawn back. So that was what would have happened if knight takes e4, but he plays queen takes e4, which is much more powerful, and he's already offering a queen trade, which I don't want to do. And he had 24 minutes at this point, and after I slid back to d8, I had 22 minutes. Sasha here played the move queen f3. I went knight f6, and here he played the move h3, and I'm like, okay, I'm down a pawn, but I have some sort of activity on the other side of the board, on the queen side. So I develop my queen and play queen to b6, attacking his b pawn. He defends with queen e2, and now I develop my bishop to e6, and to me, it felt like Sasha was sort of misplaying this. He was sort of letting me make threats and having him go on the defensive end, but he's still +2 at this point, so not really messing it up. But here, after knight e4, this was the critical mistake for Sasha, and the point is that he hung a pawn, essentially, or not. Well, okay, I'm still down a pawn after the next few moves, but it's his knight. I just basically trade more pieces and liquidate into a more drawn position down a pawn, and I'll show you what I mean in the next few moves. So knight e4, and the point here I see is that after I trade knights, his bishop's undefended on e4, which means I can play this move bishop takes h3, unleashing a discovered attack on his bishop on e4. So if he were to take on h3, I would take on e4, and the material would be even. But Sasha does this desperado move, bishop takes c6. He's like, I'm going to lose the bishop anyway, so I might as well grab whatever I can before losing the bishop anyway. So he grabs a pawn. So I can't keep the desperados going. My rook's hit, so I have to end the chain by playing b takes c6, and he recaptures on h3. Now, even though I'm still down a pawn, there are less pieces now. There's not as much pressure toward my king, and in fact, his king is a little bit opened up because his g-pawn isn't in front of his king anymore. So there could be some ideas like queen d8 and queen g5 check. There could be some sort of rook lift ideas like rook d8, rook d5, rook g5. Those are just some ideas that could be looming around in the future. So after g takes h3 here, I played the move rook on a to d8, just centralizing. Sasha played queen to c2, hitting my c-pawn, and I defend with rook e6. Sasha plays rook e2, rook d5. I'm trying to go to g5 in the future, potentially. And he can totally allow it. He can just play a random move like here. And the check isn't scary. White would just hide on h1 or something, or h2 for that matter. And there's not really any attack. Sure, I can throw in queen c7. Big deal. But, yeah, white can just block with f4, and they're fine. There's not an attack at all. So, anyway, after rook d5, Sasha just wanted to prevent the move altogether, and with 9 minutes on the clock, he played the move f4, and with 11 minutes on the clock, I played the move rook to h5, attacking the h3 pawn. King h2, and I played the move queen to d8, retreating and planning to put my queen on h4, where it will have some pressure towards white's king, which is a little bit weak. Sasha here plays rook g1, preparing to go rook g3 if need be, but I go rook f6 for some reason. I didn't really see what else to do here. Here, Sasha plays queen e4, queen d7, and here Sasha sets up a very sneaky threat of taking my rook, which is now pinned to my king. And I almost blundered it, believe it or not. I almost played like rook e6 here. I almost played rook e6 and totally hung the rook on h5. But I was smart enough to see it, and I played the move king h7, and now the rook is no longer pinned. And here Sasha played the move rook to g3. I'm sort of waiting around with queen to d6. And here's Sasha setting up another sneaky threat. It's not as apparent as taking the rook on h5 due to the pin on the king, but this is a very devilish threat here. And if I play the move rook e6 here or some other random move, guess what's going to happen? Sasha's going to play this move queen takes h5 anyway, and this is a brilliant queen sacrifice that he was setting up, and it was very discreet. I almost didn't see it. I was like hovering over the rook to go to e6, but I like, oh, he has that queen sacrifice. Very, very tricky. And the point is that I can't take his queen because I would get checkmated. Rook g7, king h8, rook g8, king h7, and this is mate for Sasha. So Sasha would win by checkmate if I were to take the rook. And if I don't take the rook, I'm just down to rook. So brilliant queen sacrifice resource he had there. But, so I have to either defend the rook with something in queen d5, or just move the rook away altogether. And I decided to play rook on h to f5. And here, after queen e4 and c5, I'm trying to sort of challenge the center a bit. We each have 5 minutes, and it's going into a time scramble. So both with 5 minutes on the clock, we're both playing much faster than at the start. So after c5, takes, Sasha plays queen c2, offering a trade to go into the endgame. And I could move the queen away, but my intuition said that, even if the queens are traded, it's still going to be a draw because the pawns are essentially equal. They're all fixated on both sides of the board. And I just, evaluated in my head that this should probably be a draw with decent play. So after rook c6, Sasha traded queens logically and then played the move rook to d2. I play king g7. He plays rook on g to g2, rook e6, rook g to e2 to defend, g5, king g3, king g6, king f3, takes, and takes. This is still a draw. Rook takes c2. I play the move rook b5, trying to play a check. And he plays king e4, rook b3. He plays h4 here, and I think at this point we each had about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe less, I don't know. But I play the move rook h3, which is not a huge mistake, but it lets white have a, a subtle chance, a small chance of winning. Like here, it was basically totally drawn, like no one has any advantage. And here, by playing this logical move rook h3, I gave white a chance. It's still drawn according to the engine, but it gives white a better chance to convert into a win. So rook h3, I'm like, okay, he just hung his h-pawn, right? What white can do in this case is actually play this move king e5. And king e5 might not look like much to you. I'm like, okay, we just take this pawn, right? All of a sudden, he plays this move, rook g2. This was Sasha's best try to get a winning position. So he would play rook g2 check here. I'd have to sidestep my king to the h-file. And then he'd play this move b4. And with my king cut off by the rook on the g-file and a 2 against 1 on the queen side and my rook sort of on the side of the board, this could go very wrong for me if I don't know what I'm doing. And in fact, like if I trade pawns here, I'm already losing in the long run. So after b4, I'd have to just go rook h3, and he'd go b5, and I guess I could liquidate with something like this, and he'd go behind the pawn. But with little time on the clock, it's very easy to slip up here and blunder. So this would have been Sasha's best try to push for a win, but instead, after rook h3, he just played check, and I went king f6. My king is not on the h-file like it was in that previous line. He went rook g4 defending his pawn, but I go rook b3, forcing him right back. And after rook h3, I offered him a draw. He thought for a few seconds, but eventually agreed. And we start the tournament with a draw against Sasha Creighton, who is no one to take lightly. He's, of course, 2018. So yeah, this was a great game on my part. If you take a look at the accuracy, we played at a pretty even accuracy. He played at 92.9, and I played at 92.4. So yeah, very good game from both of us. Kind of got lucky that he messed up in the middle game when he hung his pawn and when he was up a pawn on e4. So we kind of got lucky there, but yeah, not much else to say other than thank you guys for watching. If you like content like this, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Leave a comment, let me know what you think of the video, and I'll be sure to post the next 3 recaps. It's a 4-game tournament. Next 3 recaps soon. And yeah, stay tuned for those. And yeah, have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.